of trees and jungle. I asked Rahman, "That's where the bears are?" He nodded. "It seems no distance. I could get down and back in time for tiffin, and perhaps bag a couple of bears." For a young sportsman the temptation was great. "How long would it take us to go down and have a shot or two at them?" "No good go down, master. Come here at night, shoot bears when they come up." I had thought of that, but in the first place it did not seem much sport to shoot the beasts from cover when they were quietly eating, and in the next place I knew that Norworthy could not, even if he were willing, give me leave to go out of camp at night. I waited, hesitating for a few minutes, and then I said to myself, "It is of no use waiting. I could go down and get a bear and be back again while I am thinking of it." Then to Rahman, "No, come along. We'll have a look through that wood anyhow." Rahman evidently did not like it. "Not easy find bear, Sahib. He very cunning." "Well, very likely we shan't find him," I said, "but we can try anyhow. Bring that bottle with you. The tiffin basket can wait here till we come back." In another 5 minutes I had begun to climb down the watercourse, the shikari following me. I took the double-barrelled rifle and handed him the shotgun, having first dropped a bullet down each barrel over the charge. The ravine was steep, but there were bushes to hold on by, and although it was hot work and took a good deal longer than I expected, we at last got down to the place which I had fixed upon as likely to be the bear's home. "Sahib, climb up top," Rahman said. "Come down through wood. No good fire at bear when he above." I had heard that before, but I was hot, the sun was pouring down, there was not a breath of wind, and it looked a long way up to the top of the wood. "Give me the claret. It would take too long to search the wood regularly. We'll sit down here for a bit, and if we can see anything moving up in the wood, well and good. If not, we'll come back again another day with some beaters and dogs." So saying, I sat down with my back against a rock, at a spot where I could look up among the trees for a long way through a natural vista. I had a drink of the claret, and then I sat and watched till gradually I dropped off to sleep. I don't know how long I slept, but it was some time, and I woke up with a sudden start. Rahman, who had, I fancy, been asleep too, also started up. The noise which had aroused us was made by a rolling stone striking a rock, and looking up I saw some 50 yards away, not in the wood, but on the rocky hillside on our side of the ravine, a bear standing, as though unconscious of our presence, snuffing the air. As was natural, I seized my rifle, cocked it, and took aim, unheeding a cry of "No, no, Sahib!" from Rahman. However, I was not going to miss such a chance as this, and I let fly. The beast had been standing sideways to me, and as I saw him fall I felt sure I had hit him in the heart. I gave a shout of triumph, and was about to climb up, when from behind the rock on which the bear had stood appeared another, growling fiercely. On seeing me, it at once prepared to come down. Stupidly, taken by surprise and being new at it, I fired at once at its head. The bear gave a spring, and then, it seemed instantaneously, down it came at me. Whether it rolled down, or slipped down, or ran down, I don't know, but it came almost as if it had jumped straight at me. "My gun, Rahman!" I shouted, holding out my hand. There was no answer. I glanced round and found that the scoundrel had bolted. I had time, and only just time, to take a step backwards and to club my rifle, when the brute was upon me. I got one fair blow at the side of its head, a blow that would have smashed the skull of any civilized beast into pieces, and which did fortunately break the brute's jaw. Then in an instant he was upon me, and I was fighting for life. My hunting knife was out, and with my left hand I had the beast by the throat, while with my right I tried to drive my knife into its ribs. My bullet had gone through his chest. The impetus of his charge had knocked me over, and we rolled on the ground, he tearing with his claws at my shoulder and arm, I stabbing and struggling, my great effort being to keep my knees up so as to protect my body with them from his hind claws. After the first blow with his paw, which laid my shoulder open, I did not think I felt any special pain whatever. There was a strange faint sensation, and my whole energy seemed centered in the two ideas, to strike and to keep my knees up. I knew that I was getting faint, but I was dimly conscious that his efforts too were relaxing. His weight on me seemed to increase enormously, and the last idea that flashed across me was that it was a drawn fight. The next idea of which I was conscious was that I was being carried. I seemed to be swinging about, and I thought I was at sea. Then there was a little jolt and a sense of pain. A collision, I muttered, and opened my eyes. Beyond the fact that I seemed in a yellow world, a bright orange yellow, my eyes did not help me, and I lay vaguely wondering about it all, till the rocking ceased. There was another bump, and then the yellow world seemed to come to an end, and as the daylight streamed in upon me, I fainted again. This time, when I awoke to consciousness, things were clearer. I was stretched by a little stream. A native woman was sprinkling my face and washing the blood from my wounds, while another, who had with my own knife cut off my coat and shirt, was tearing the latter into strips to bandage my wounds. The yellow world was explained. I was lying on the yellow robe of one of the women. They tied the ends together, placed a long stick through them, and carried me in the bag-like hammock. They nodded to me when they saw I was conscious, and brought water in a large leaf and poured it into my mouth. Then one went away for some time and came back with some leaves and bark. These they chewed and put on my wounds, bound them up with strips of my shirt, and then again knotted the ends of the cloth, and lifting me up went on as before. I was sure that we were much lower down the Ghat than we had been when I was watching for the bears, and we were now going still lower. However, I knew very little Hindustani, nothing of the language the women spoke. I was too weak to stand, too weak even to think much, and I dozed and woke and dozed again, until, after what seemed to me many hours of travel, we stopped again, this time before a tent. 2 or 3 old women and 4 or 5 men came out, and there was great talking between them and the young women, for they were young, who had carried me down. Some of the party appeared angry, but at last things quieted down, and I was carried into the tent. I had fever, and was, I suppose, delirious for days. I afterwards found that for fully a fortnight I had lost all consciousness, but a good constitution and the nursing of the women pulled me round. When once the fever had gone, I began to mend rapidly. I tried to explain to the women that if they would go up to the camp and tell them where I was, they would be well rewarded, but although I was sure they understood, they shook their heads, and by the fact that as I became stronger 2 or 3 armed men always hung about the tent, I came to the conclusion that I was a sort of prisoner. This was annoying, but did not seem serious. If these people were Dacoits, or, as was more likely, allies of the Dacoits, I could be kept only for ransom or exchange. Moreover, I felt sure of my ability to escape when I got strong, especially as I believed that in the young women who had saved my life, both by bringing me down and by their careful nursing, I should find friends. "Were they pretty, uncle?" Mary Hastings broke in. "Never mind whether they were pretty, Mary. They were better than pretty." "No, but we like to know, uncle." "Well, except the soft dark eyes common to the race, and the good temper and light-heartedness also so general among Hindoo girls, and the tenderness which women feel toward a creature whose life they have saved, whether it's a wounded bird or a drowning puppy, I suppose they were nothing remarkable in the way of beauty, but at the time I know what I thought of them. Charming." End of Chapter 1. Bears and Dacoits, A Tale of the Ghauts, by G.A. Henty. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Michael Harris. Chapter 2. Just as I was getting strong enough to walk, and was beginning to think of making my escape, a band of 5 or 6 fellows, armed to the teeth, came in, and made signs that I was to go with them. It was evidently an arranged thing. The girls only were surprised, but they were at once turned out, and as we started I could see 2 crouching figures in the shade, with their clothes over their heads. I had a native garment thrown over my shoulders, and in 5 minutes after the arrival of the fellows found myself on my way. It took us some 6 hours before we reached our destination, which was one of those natural rock